der zentralen Position. Nur Schwarze hat er noch vor sich. Dann ist es vielleicht noch. Er ist im Strafraum. Und der Feld. Tor! Tor! Für die Frankfurter Eintracht. 5:1. Herrje!
Hi and welcome to the German Fußball podcast. I'm your host, Markus Fjortoft, and as always joined by co-host Jan Fjortoft. Dad, we're a bit caught in between different things. We have our schedules to do, but we've mustered ourselves together. We found a time, and there's really only one topic to discuss. It is Bayern. It's their third loss in a row. It is Tuchel. It is etc., etc., etc. Where do we start? Where do we start to dissect this, I guess, issue, this drama that is at FC Hollywood?
Well, first of all, after 11 seasons in a row, whether Bayern win the Bundesliga, we said it before, every neutral will love to see another team going there. Dortmund could have done it last season, but you feel that this season at Leverkusen, they have a strategy, they have a coach, they have a team, they have a constant form, they have a way of playing that they won't give it away, at least, to Bayern as Dortmund did last year. Coming into this round, Markus, Bayern playing in Bochum, Leverkusen playing in Heidenheim. And we know that the last game, Bayern hammered Bochum 7-0. And Heidenheim have been an informed team in the Bundesliga lately. So you could feel that maybe this was a round where they could get a bit closer to Leverkusen. But then, in contrary, I saw both games, as we both did. And yes, there was tight at the end in Heidenheim. You had a feeling that they could get something out of it at the end, but still Leverkusen managed to do the 3 points, putting pressure on Bayern, playing the day after that they're playing in Bochum. And that was an amazing game as well, because not to defend Thomas Tuchel, not to defend him using XG in an analysis of the game, but yes, they had enough chances. Not only, just remember at 1-0, Harry Kane, 1-against-1 at the goalkeeper, Thomas Müller, 100% free, but hey, it's Harry Kane, normally he scores there. Second half, Harry Kane as well with a header, should be okay. But at the end of the day, Bochum winning 3-1, and the crisis as Bayern getting bigger, because losing 3 games in 8 days, not any club can accept that, but Bayern, they won't accept that at all. So, Markus, this could be an after the season kind of discussion when we said, remember that round when the Bundesliga was decided, advantage Leverkusen.
It was funny, Rafa Honigstein said in his article, he said, the criticism had always been about the Bundesliga being done in March. We might actually see it being concluded before that, which is ironic. Obviously, it's not Bayern the lead, it's Leverkusen. But that, taking it back to Tuchel and that whole situation, as we know, Kahn, Salihamidzic were part of relieving Nagelsmann of his duty after he had 3 losses throughout the entire season, right? And I asked you last episode in terms of, had it not been for Nagelsmann being sacked, would Tuchel have already been sacked? Obviously, with that being in mind. But in terms of Tuchel's approach, it's interesting from a leader's perspective, and you've obviously had insight that from being as a player, you've sporting director, you've been the occasional stand-in coach and what have you. But culturally, we've seen it come out now that the relationship between Kimmich and Tuchel has been tarnished. We saw Kimmich getting in a confrontation with his assistant coach. We've seen comments coming out where Tuchel has apparently said that you're not as good as I thought you would be. And there's been that tone to it. Obviously, there's semblance of truth in what Tuchel is saying. But in terms of from an approach, in terms of how to handle a dressing room like that, do you think that could be done better? Has he made a mistake as such? How do you see that kind of approach he's taking?
Well, I think we have to make it in the right order. If Nagelsmann wasn't fired last season and they put in Tuchel at the end of the season, well, it ended up with a Bundesliga trophy. But I mean, the general opinion is that Dortmund gave that away. But anyway, they won the Bundesliga. So normally a coach in that position that Tuchel is now, and in the position Bayern are at the moment, he would have been fired. But everything else is a consequence of them not winning football games. Kimmich has been kind of, I'm not saying taking down in the leading, peaking order. Remember this, Kimmich, Goretzka, they were supposed to be the new leaders of the team, not the Thomas Müller and Neuer. So that was a part of it as well. Thomas Tuchel tried against, I think these 3 games in 8 days kind of summarize a team that is struggling. He tried to speculate a bit away from home in Leverkusen with 3 at the back. Then in the next game against Lazio, he came back to the 4 at the back, Goretzka, Kimmich, Müller, they're all in the same team. And he kept going in this game in Bochum to do the same. De Ligt back then. De Ligt, as a lot of people and influential people like Christian Falk is always talking about, get De Ligt back because he was bought in to be the boss at the back there. And it still doesn't work. So then the big challenge is for a leader. Shall I change again, or shall I be stubborn to keep on the path I'm going? And the underline or the melody of it all is, did you win the football game? So whatever you do, people will ask, did you win the football game? Has Tuchel right that Bayern probably were the better team against Bochum? Yes, he's right. But did we still feel that Bochum had a more hunger, a more passion, and more energy to their game to win the game? Yes, too. So this is the dilemma a coach like Thomas Tuchel will have at this stage of the season. 1-0 down after the Lazio game, 8 points behind Leverkusen, and by the way, goal difference worse as well at the moment, meaning that is practically 9, meaning that Leverkusen got to lose 3 games and Bayern got to win all of them, and Leverkusen haven't lost a game this season. So at the moment, it's looking very dark and very pessimistic prospects for the Bayern.
And Bayern now, like you say, find themselves 8 points adrift. And, you know, Dortmund pretty much gave away the title last season, and to big frustration, I think, for the neutral in terms of wanting to end that reign that Bayern have had in the Bundesliga, just ending on Tuchel, Bayern, the whole timing of things. You know, psychologically, winning 11 titles in a row is one in which it eventually has to come to an end. And I think part of maybe the players' mind, they were thinking, well, we don't want to be part of that reign ending, so to speak, and that will play into their mind. I guess, put it in kind of black and white terms, but if Tuchel is, to what degree he is to blame in terms of taking over this squad, in terms of maybe that team was a bit on the downfall and he happened to take over when they were on that fall. How do you see that? Because it is a difficult one in terms of a manager's impact, and then whether Tuchel is the one to turn that ship around, or if simply this Bayern team needs a reset in sorts.
But I think that's the reset that they hope to do. That's why they got Nagelsmann in, a young coach, the most promising coach in the world, being seen as the young wonder of football. I think they plan long-term with him. And at the beginning of last season, there were a period of time they played very well under Julian Nagelsmann. And then another time occurred, maybe that was the first time he was really having a bad spell as a coach. And we know the history that Tuchel was available, I took him on. And I always say that I've been a fan of Tuchel. I always liked the way he did it, because he went a bit against every other expectations. And he has a bad reputation in Germany after what happened in Dortmund. I thought that was unfair, because there was different reasons for that. But the fact is, though, that Tuchel, if you think of the players, how many players has he done better, made better since he came to Bayern? And, well, Musiala is still good. Harry Kane has just been doing what he's always done. He scored goals, scored 25 goals. Leroy Sané at the beginning of the season, and so on and so on. So they try to change it, Marcus. They try to... The critics of Tuchel will say, but if you're going to have a restart, if you want to have new leaders after Müller and Neuer, then you have to give them the 100% support. And if you want to make Kimmich a leader, then Kimmich got to play. Tuchel, I think in the other corner, will say, well, is Kimmich want to be a leader? He has to play well. So this is a quite tough period they're into it now, because Müller played bad against Bochum as well. He was not there. Musiala was okay, but there is a lot of players now playing under level. Another thing, Markus, and we touched a bit about that before, is that I think a lot of the German players are overestimated, but and I put that purely on facts. Out last year in the Champions League against Manchester City, fair enough. They were the best team. The year before, Villarreal, struggling in Lazio, 2 last World Cups based on most Bayern players. Terrible, embarrassing World Cups for the two of them, for the 2 World Cups. So maybe some of these players, Kimmich, Goretzka, Thomas Müller, maybe overestimated. And you can just take one player, and we did that in the last episode, who was getting worse. Davies, not as good as he used to be. Upamecano, wow. Every game a mistake. This time as well, a penalty, clear penalty, by the way, sent off. Same against Lazio, doing his mistakes. De Ligt, him came as the best defender in the world, and what's left of him, and so on. So it's also a tough time, and I understand the question that to be a coach for a team that goes a bit down, but still, Markus, he has got players in there, like I said, a great defender, one of the best goal getters in the world, and still the team is getting worse.
And we can spin all kinds of narratives. Tuchel tried with the XG. We can also use the fact that Leverkusen are having an historic season at that, incredible, and under any other normal circumstance, Bayern would most likely be top of the league. They're arguably a better team than they were last season as well, in terms of total output, in terms of players brought in. You can say that it's individual mistakes or anything, but at the end of the day, like you said, that it's about whether you win the game or not. And for Bayern Munich, a winning institution, there is nothing else that counts. So whether it was 0% Tuchel's fault, which it obviously isn't, at the end of the day, it's marked by trophies won, by the points, aggregated, so to speak. Just to go on to the coaching issue then, or the coaching solution at that, there's obviously now Xabi Alonso now as the front runner. We see reports, well, they're very much considering Xabi Alonso to the summer and all that. Do you think it plays into Xabi Alonso's mind, if we're just having a bit of fun with it, that Bayern are in the situation they are in, that there is a bit of stormy waters, so to speak, and him going into that role, well, you wouldn't necessarily solve all those just being one man, even someone like Xabi Alonso?
Well, first of all, I think it's like the politics and football thing changes, and maybe the solutions from yesterday is not the same solutions today. That Bayern getting linked now with Tah and Alonso and Florian Wirtz, that is a strategy that Bayern have done before, and they also, that is a market they should look into. Of course, they try to kind of get under the skin of Leverkusen in this case, as they do and did with Dortmund over the years. But I don't think Alonso is there. Alonso is a winner. He knows that. He probably turned this around as something energetic for him. I don't think that Alonso will leave Leverkusen for Bayern. Nothing to do with Bayern is a great challenge. But I think that if you are so identified with Project Leverkusen, I think it's more likely that he will stay in Leverkusen. So say the alternative is to stay in Leverkusen, or you go to Bayern that then need to fire Tuchel, or you go to Liverpool. I still think Bayern will be the third choice for him. That is my qualified guess as you can have, because I don't think that is interesting for him. Then it's better to take Leverkusen into the Champions League. And then it's a plus minus, positive, negative, going to Liverpool after Jurgen Klopp, of course. That is one thing. But we find ourselves in a very interesting situation now that Bayern could be out manager in the summer. Liverpool are without the manager in the summer. Barcelona are without the manager in the summer. German national team is without the manager in the summer. Why is that interesting? Yes, because there's a lot of the same people involved and as candidates. Say that Bayern, I must be clear, Dresden, the CEO of Bayern, straight after the game, 100% behind Tuchel, which I think was right, that he did it straight away. Meaning that, but if they did something, who should be, then they need a coach that is out of job. I say hello to Hansi Flick, who is then a candidate for going to Barcelona, and so on and so on. So there is a lot of things depending on each other at the end of the season now. Alonso will 100% say the only thing that is important for us is there are 12 games left of the season. We have 8-point lead, but he will say that we talk about so many times, Markus, that the performances will be a consequence of what they do. The good thing about Leverkusen is that you can stay a bit off Broadway. You don't have a aggressive press there. You don't have media outlets that's going to fill pages or minutes with Leverkusen. Yes, there will be people traveling there, as you self did, going in to talk to them, but not like in Bayern, because the big thing now is not that Leverkusen seem to win the Bundesliga. The big thing now is that Bayern seems to lose it.
So it goes. Not a boring day in Bayern ever, and it will be interesting to see. And for now, we can only speculate, of course, that as we conclude, this is a Bayern Tuchel Leverkusen sort of discussion, but we must highlight some of the things that happened otherwise in the Bundesliga round as well. And with Stuttgart now with their 4th Bundesliga win in a row, cementing their spot in 3rd, we seem to have another new refreshing face as part of the Champions League. And arguably, you might think that someone like Hoeneß might be a candidate, considering how he's performed and turned it around as well. Otherwise, you have Mainz and Union Berlin gaining vital wins in the bottom there. Leipzig winning as well, finally, after a shaky start to the new year. And our dear Eintracht, who can't seem to figure out if they want to go for the Champions League spots and all that follows, or stay and compete with the rest of the teams behind them, namely Freiburg, someone even like Werder Bremen as well. But that you obviously have a flight to catch before we conclude. Any thoughts to leave us with?
Well, I had a great weekend. I had a weekend off, so meaning that I watched a lot of games, and I watched the game for my Eintracht in Freiburg. They were 1-0 up, 2-1 up, 3-2 up, and Freiburg always came back. What's interesting to see now is that Frankfurt, who started the season with a very solid defense, struggling to score goals, and now it's a total opposite. They concede two easy goals. But in Germany now, it's all about, and as you were saying, 2 of the relegation candidates lost. Won, meaning that it's going to be tighter down there as well. And I think one of these surprises of the season is Werder Bremen calmly climbing up the table, and we won't be surprised if they get into Europe. I hope, of course, that my Eintracht will go there. I think that's realistic to be in Europe, Champions League. It's a bit over the top, but as we see at the 5th position in the Bundesliga, could, in competition with the 5th in Premier League, could be in the Champions League. So it's going to be great. And I just want to say to our viewers and our listeners that it turned into a special episode on Tuchel, Leverkusen, and Bayern, which is normal. And next time I think that we have a feeling that will continue, because whatever happens, I don't think Leverkusen will win the rest of the games. I can't say, Markus, because I've followed German football so closely all my life. There is no way I manage to say that the Bayern won't win the league. So there is still something in there, but they need to get their boat in order to sail forward, because I think that is what they got to do, and the only thing that can help them doing that is winning football games.
Yes, exactly. And there's no better club that knows that than Bayern. Let's see if they find and rejuvenate themselves into old form. But for now, Dad, you have a safe flight, and then we will reconvene next week, which will inarguably be another entertaining week filled with talking points. But yes, thanks, Dad, and auf Wiedersehen.
Thank you. Auf Wiedersehen zu allem. Ciao.